Hello everyone, this is Bea Harper from supermarcy.com and welcome back to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Nimrod Atal's, that's a hell of a name, Robert Rodriguez produced Predators. The anticipation for Predators was quite worthwhile because even though Predator 2 may not have been as financially successful, it was still way better than Alien vs Predator by a long shot. So around this time, people were hoping to see another sort of return to form for the Predator series. And when Robert Rodriguez got involved, and we have to remember, Robert Rodriguez is practically a filmmaking machine. You can argue about the quality of his movies, but the man is like a contemporary version of Roger Corman. Like, there's just no stopping him when it comes to just thrashing out movies like, you know, like some sort of movie thrashing out machine. I don't know. But Rodriguez is a very busy man, and he also happens to have a particular affection for popular 1980s sci-fi franchises. So he got the rights to making a Predator film, but for some reason he didn't decide to direct one himself, and that's why he got Nimrod Atal to be in the director's chair for him. Now, even though this decision was made, you can still feel the Robert Rodriguez influence throughout all of it, namely because of the casting of Danny Trejo, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So, Predators takes place, of all places, on a predator hunting reserve. This is interesting because in the other films, they mainly took place on Earth. It wasn't until Predator 2, towards the very end, that we saw inside a Predator spaceship, and we got to see examples of their technology and their architecture and that sort of stuff. So in Predators, we get transported into a completely different realm, and we are joined by Adrien Brody, Alice Braga, Topher Grace, Lawrence Fishburne, and Walton Goggins from Justified. Talk about a very eclectic cast, because when I think of a Predator film, I think of the combatants against the Predator will be, you know, rather sort of strong, imposing individuals. But then again, we had Predator 2 starring Danny Glover, and Danny Glover isn't typically what you'd consider an action man, but he's done the Lethal Weapon movies, for crying out loud, and he has a really good presence about him. Same thing can be said for half of the cast in Predators. Adrien Brody is usually seen as a very sort of lean and lanky fellow, but in this movie, holy crap, he built himself up. He's all muscle in this movie. And no, he's not as big as Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I don't think he needs to be. Because his character of Royce is the sort of individual who would sell his mother in order to live 5 more minutes. He's just got that really mercenary and cold attitude. It suits him. Adrien Brody isn't what you'd call a typical action man, but he's got it in this movie. And I just wonder what caused this casting to go ahead, because it's very, very inspiring. Alice Braga, she is a very fascinating actress. I love seeing her, and her character in this movie isn't what you'd call, you know, the token tough female sort of thing. She doesn't go around kicking 7-foot-tall men and aliens alike in the face. She is an Israeli sniper, so she tends to approach situations very, very carefully. She's not physically as strong as her male counterparts, but it's her wits that help her, you know, endure this situation that's been tossed into. Walton Goggins plays a convict, and his usual charming, hilarious self. He gets some of the best lines in this movie, and he's just so off-putting, but you can't help but love him most of the time. Topher Grace plays a very sort of meek physician character, and you probably guessed that the twist, you know, a mile away. The fact that I've said that Topher Grace is in this movie is enough to get you thinking. But even so, Topher Grace is a good actor, and I don't feel that he gets enough recognition for his work. And of course you have Lawrence Fishburne in this movie. Lawrence Fishburne is one of those folks that can turn up in a film and he is able to just elevated, and it's no exception in this movie. He plays somebody who's had more than a couple of screws loose. Not all of his dogs are barking, and he's a couple of cans short of a six-pack. But yeah, the casting in this movie is very, very curious, to say the least, but I feel in the context of the movie it does work. Now, the story itself, I'm a little bit conflicted. Predators is its own story. It isn't trying to be a sequel to Predator 2 or the first Predator film, but there are quite a few visual references in this movie that sort of kick back toward the Arnold Schwarzenegger original film, and it is very affectionate and it's done with its heart in the right place, but I don't feel that it was particularly necessary. Far be it from me to, you know, tell off a movie for not being original, but without those references, I feel the film would have stood quite strongly on its own. And truth be told, it still follows a couple of the very same beats from the first movie. You're like a bunch of people being tossed into a jungle and being systematically hunted down by the alien menace. But what really does sort of elevate the film is not just the characters in this movie, or at least half of them anyway, but also the fact that it's on a predator planet. This is a predator's world. It is unfamiliar, but at the same time it is familiar. You get to see all types of exotic wildlife and flora all over the place, and I just wish they had the opportunity to show a little more of that sort of stuff. Granted, the film was moving at a very sort of breakneck pace, no pun intended, but it would have been nice to see more of this world, because they were obviously thinking outside the box when it came to the setting of this movie. And granted, the end of the film does leave it open for a sequel, but it doesn't presume so much that it is going to happen. But I digress. Now, what I said about the characters before, about, you know, half of them being good, that the ones I listed off by name, the other ones not so much, and that includes Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo is a Robert Rodriguez regular, and I would have expected his character in this movie to have been more prevalent, but much to my shock and, you know, maybe dismay, he isn't given enough to do. And he's been built up as some sort of badass Mexican cartel drug lord, but it's boggling what they do to him. The same thing can be said for the Yakuza hitman. Yes, they have a Yakuza hitman, and he carries around a freaking katana. And as in the grand tradition of any sort of Predator film, when you have this solitary, mysterious character facing off against a Predator, it's built up to be one of the most epic things ever, and the film completely cheats you with that. And I'm kind of sick of this, to be perfectly honest. Can we just see one of these sorts of battles take place, please? Surely it's not too much. But yeah, the other characters aren't necessarily offensive, but they don't leave enough of an impression, at least not on me. But that could have just been because the story has to go at a very fast pace, and it's not a long movie either. It's actually a very short but entertaining adventure. Moving on to the predators themselves, this is where your mileage may vary. So they do establish that there is a new species of predator on the planet. They're known as the brutes or the warriors or something like that, like the super predator. But it also establishes the existence of the previous types of predator, you know, the ones that you and I have seen in the previous movies. I, for one, don't necessarily like the Stone Cold Steve Austin type predators, the brutes. That's not a knock on the actors behind the costumes or the folks who designed the look of these things, but when I think of the Predator, I think of brutal but beautiful efficiency. And I don't know, something about these brute predators do not rub me the right way, but that could just be personal bias. Well, probably not just be, but it is personal bias, because we all have our points of view when it comes to how we like to see our favourite monsters. And brute super predators aren't exactly my cup of tea. But if that is, what you like, that's great. A lot of you will also probably know, in the theatrical trailer of this movie, Adrien Brody's character is standing there and all the targeting reticles of the predators are surrounding him, and they're all sort of, finding their way on his body. And I was waiting for that moment from the trailer because it seemed to promise something really dire. But this does not happen in the movie. It has the frame of Adrien Brody, looking, frightened like a deer in headlights, but it doesn't have all the predators targeting him because it doesn't happen. Oh, what? I know with a trailer you need to bait the audience into coming to see your movie, but that was a downright lie. I was really curious about how they would get out of that sort of situation, because to me that's the predators leaving you dead to rights. In regards to Braga's character, the Israeli sniper, I for one really do like her because her sex isn't discussed at length. Like, she is being part of a team, and she doesn't feel the need to prove herself in order to be one of the guys. She does her thing, and the guys are completely cool with that. They don't question her. They don't say garbage like, oh, you're pretty good for a woman, nothing like that. She is treated with equality in this movie. And I got to applaud Nimrod Attal and Robert Rodriguez for, not making a big deal about having a female action hero. She's there, she does her thing, that's it. Good idea, really good idea. So yes, those were my general thoughts on Predators. I feel that, in a sense, it is better than Predator 2, but once again, that's only just because it has a different bunch of talent behind the camera. But it's done with all the best intentions, and I feel that if you're looking for a standalone Predator film that doesn't skimp on the fan service and doesn't forget where it came from, I feel this one really does fit the bill. But one of the beauties of a Predator film is that you could set it in any particular time period and it would still be a really great film. So can you imagine if a Predator film was set back in, say, ancient Japan or ancient Rome or ancient Greece, the Italian Renaissance, anywhere in human history, it would still be really, really cool. I say that word a lot, don't I? Cool. But the fact of the matter is, Predators is successful, even though it does have its downer points, i.e. the constant homages to the first movie that I feel it doesn't need. So that being said, I give Predators a 3.5 out of 5. Very solid score. Look, if you are a fan of the franchise, I highly recommend checking it out and enjoying it, because I feel that it offers something new, despite sort of referencing all the older series. And on that sort of notion alone, I feel it is successful. But once again, your mileage may vary. Okay guys, so thank you very much for joining me, and once again, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye bye now.